Okay, let's start. Second lesson, Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. This is the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, former South African president, and it includes the inauguration ceremony and citations from his speech. Okay, let's say before you read, apartheid is a political system that separates people according to their race. Apartheid means discrimination on ground of race. So, can you say which of the three countries named States of America, South Africa, and Australia, which is the that had a political system until very recently? So, this is the question asked in the beginning of the lesson. Have you heard of Nelson Mandela? Yeah. Mandela and his African National Congress spent a lifetime fighting against apartheid. Mandela had to spend 30 years in prison. Finally, democratic elections were held in South Africa in 1994, and Mandela became the first black president of a new nation. In this extract from his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, Mandela speaks about a historic occasion, the inauguration. Okay, can you guess what the occasion might be? And check your guess with this new items from BBC of 10th May 1994 when we will see the explanation of the lesson. We can find out these answers for these questions. In South Africa, a brutal practice named apartheid was very popular in those days. Apartheid means discrimination on grounds of race, and it referred to the discrimination between people on the basis of their race and color. Dark skinned people deprived of their basic rights. They don't have their basic rights. This lesson gives us an overview of the um, struggle of Nelson Mandela for making the society with no discrimination on the basis of their color, caste, race, age, or gender. Okay, Mandela becomes South Africa's first black president. Nelson Mandela has become South Africa's first black president after more than 3 centuries of white rule. 3 centuries of white rule after that, Nelson Mandela becomes South Africa's first black president. Mr. Mandela's African National Congress means ANC party won 252 of the 400 seats in the first democratic election of South Africa's history. Out of 400, Mandela won 252 seats. The inauguration ceremony took place in the Union Buildings amphitheater. What is amphitheater? Amphitheater is an open circular, or we can say oval building with a central space surrounded by the seats, that is called amphitheater in Pretoria. Okay, Pretoria is the capital of South Africa. In Pretoria, today attended by politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries around the world for that inauguration. Never again will this beautiful land experience the oppression of one by another, and said Nelson Mandela in his address. Jubilant scene on the street of Pretoria followed the ceremony with blacks, whites, and coloreds celebrating together. Now they are celebrating together. What's the meaning of jubilant? Jubilant is the feeling or expressing great happiness. That is the great happiness when Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. And oppression is the prolonged cruel or unjust treatment that the whites are doing with the blacks. So more than 1 lakh South African men, women, and children of all races sang and danced with joy. They are enjoying the inaugural party. Okay, now let's begin our lesson. 10th May, which year? 1994. Down Bright and clear. Dawn means begin of a day, that is dawned. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by the dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respect for the inauguration. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. Means on South African soil, this is the what is besieged, to be surrounded closely by the leaders, by the dignitaries, world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration. And the inauguration will be the largest gathering ever for the international leaders on South African soil. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union Building in Pretoria. Now, the ceremonies took place in a lovely sandstone that is called amphitheater by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy. For decades, that seat is for the white supremacy, and now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nation of the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. What is the figure of speech here? Now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations, that is imagery. Okay, in South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Now it is democratic non-racial government. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zenani. On the podium, Mr. De Klerk was first sworn as an second deputy president. On that lovely autumn day, who was accompanied by my daughter, means I was accompanied by my daughter Zenani. On the podium, Mr. De Klerk was first sworn. He is given under oath, that is as a second deputy president, and then deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki is the name, was sworn as a first deputy president. He was the first deputy president. What was the name? That is Thabo Mbeki. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. Now, it was whose turn? It was Mandela's turn to obey and uphold the constitution, to devote myself for the well-being of the republic and its people. Now, Mandela is there to work for the people as a republican. To the assembled guest and watching world, I said. Who said? Mandela said, today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disasters that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. Now, from this day, all humanity will be proud means the human disasters and extraordinary human disasters that lasted too long, now that is all done with that. Now it's liberty for all of the peoples who are watching, assembled as a guest and watching the world. The state of being free within society. Now we are in a state of being free within society. We who were outlaws not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take positions with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. That is all. Means the outlaws not so long ago have today, it is the privilege to host to the nations, to our nation, to our world. So here Mandela thanked to all the distinguished international guests, all the dignitaries who came there, and for what is, after all, a common victory for all, for justice, that is a common victory for justice, that is a common victory for peace, that is a common victory for human dignity. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. What is emancipation? That is freedom from restrictions, all the restrictions that is the freedom we achieved, we pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discriminations. So now we are pledged to liberate all our people. Liberate people means to get free within the society, all that restrictions, for all that restrictions. Now we are in the state of being free without any restrictions. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. So, never, never, and never again shall it be the beautiful. Now means never again this beautiful land will again experience that type of what we can say, the freedom. Okay, the freedom. Um, again shall it be that the beautiful land will again experience that freedom, that liberty. So the sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. So here the sun never set on for this glorious human achievement. That is the human achievement, that is not only my achievement, that is our achievement, that is human achievement. Let freedom reign. Reign means the period of. Okay, so let freedom reign. God bless Africa. Now onwards, God bless Africa. For that, let's freedom begin. Okay. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troops carrier rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings. Now, after a few moments later, all lifted their eyes. That is a spectacular array. Spectacular array means an impressive display with a colorful and attractive sight. And troop carriers rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings at Pretoria. O means extremely impressive. That is the sight, extremely impressive. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but that is a demonstration of military loyalty to democracy. To democracy, that is the display of military force, but a demonstration of the military loyalty to democracy, to a new government, for a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. That had been freely and fairly elected. What is precision? Fact of being exact or accurate. Okay, that is very accurate. The displays was very accurate. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals. Here, ribbons and medals are there on their uniform, and days gone by saluted me. Now they are saluted me, pledge their loyalty, and they all are taking pledge for their loyalty. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. Before, some years before, I was here, Mandela was thinking that I was unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted, but what they did, they arrested me. The police force arrested Nelson Mandela. Finally, a chevron of impala. Chevron means that is the in V shape, the pattern in the V shape of impala. They are that are jets, impala jets, left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. Now they are just displaying the smoke in a pattern V on new South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems and the vision of whites singing. Whites are singing that Neokusi Sikelil I Africa, and blacks were singing Die Stem. They just exchanged their national anthems and they are singing, because now it is the government, democratic government, the old anthem of Republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, Despised means had a very low opinion of, they don't know the words of the anthems. They would soon know the words by heart, and they have to by heart both the anthems. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War, before my own birth, Boer means self-governing African. Okay, self-governing African. Both before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination. Racial domination means for their skin color, they are having a dominant against the dark-skinned people of their own, on their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world has ever known. That is the most inhuman society the world has ever known. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century, and my own eighth decade as a man. Eighth decade as a man is, one decade is 10 years, so he is in eighth decade as a man, and last decade of the 20th century. Thus that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples regardless of the color of their skin. That is overturned forever and replaced by one recognized the rights. That is for all human, even they are black or even they are white, all for all peoples regardless of their color of their skin. Means rights and freedom are same for all. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. We can never, or the country can never repay it. The sufferings, the courage can never be counted or repaid. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices has wrought. Means, wrought means the old fashioned formal word, that is a formal word, or done or achieved, for done or achieved. Here, Nelson Mandela was feeling that day that I have no, on so many other days, that simply some of all African patriots who had done very much for the country, and that long and noble line ended. And he was very pained. Who was very pained? Nelson Mandela was feeling very pained that I was not able to thank them because they had already gone and they were not be able to see what their sacrifices has done for the country. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt, but the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sissulus, the Chief Lithulis, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Subukwes of our time, men of such extraordinary courage. Profound means, profound is deep and strong. So these are the names of that, means who had done the policy of apartheid, created a deep and lasting wound for our country or for my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations has just spent many years for that, recovering from that profound hurt that gives a profound hurt. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another intended effect, and that produced by Oliver Thambos. These are the men, these are the personalities who had done men of such extraordinary courage. They are the personalities of such extraordinary courage, wisdom and generosity that their like may be never known again. Perhaps it requires such depth of operation to create such heights of character. Now, what we need, um, depth of operation to create such heights of our character. Then only we will get the heights of our character. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth in its people. Even we are rich, our country is rich in minerals or gems, then also the real thing is that, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people. People of a country are the greatest of all these, finer and truer. They are the truer than the purest diamond. They are the truer, they are the finer, they are the greatest wealth of our country. It is from these comrades in the struggle, comrades means fellow members of an organization, in the struggle, that I learned the meaning of courage. What is the meaning of courage? Then only he will learn with his comrades. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. Resilience means the ability to deal with any kind of hardship and recover from its effects. So, um, in a country, our people are ready to take risk. The men, women, um, Mandela have seen that men stand up to attack and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. But that is a triumph over it. The brave man is not he who dies not feel afraid, but he who conquer that fear. He who conquer, defies is the resist, conquer that fear. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. They are not born by this hating one another on the ground of the color, religion, or anything. People must learn to hate. People must learn to hate in the world. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. If they learn to hate in a society, then they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart. They can come, means it can come more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmest time, grimmest means very serious time in prison, when Nelson Mandela was in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guard. What he sees, the humanity, glimmer humanity. Glimmer is shine faintly. That is glimmer humanity in one of the guard. Perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going, and that is enough for him, for Mandela, to keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. That can be hidden, but that can be never extinguished. What is reassure means do something to remove the fear. So here, man's goodness is the flame that can be hidden inside a human heart but never extinguished. Okay, in life, every man has twin obligations. What is obligations here? Obligations is a duty or commitment. That is obligations. Every man has twin obligations: obligation to his family, obligation to his parents, obligation to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, to his community, his country. That are the two obligations. Means first is the personal one and second is for the country people. In a civil and human, here Mandela has given two obligations about a human, um, about his family, children, wife, and second one is about community, country, people. What is in a civil and human? Human is showing compassion. Okay, compassion. Um, each man is able to fulfill those obligations. Each man has to able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. According to his own inclination means natural tendency of the behavior and his own abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill those both of those obligations because of their color of the skin. In South Africa, it is not possible. That is impossible for a man to of my birth and color to fulfill those both those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. Who attempted for the family, for the country people, so they will be forced to live their life apart, isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably, means unavoidably, ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, means a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion, means they are rebellious. They are showing the quality of rebellion, means they did not allow to take as a free, they may be punished or isolated for that, when they are fulfilling those two obligations, so they will be punished or isolated. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Means what he found, that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son. I can't do anything as a son, I can't do anything as a brother, a father, and a husband. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I don't know what is freedom in my childhood. I was not born with a hunger to be free, but I was born free. Free in every way. He was born, everyone is born free, free in every way, and that I could know. Free to run in the field near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast Millie's is maize under the stars and ride the broad back to slow moving bulls, as long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe. I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Now, as long as I obeyed my father and abided by some customs of my tribe, so I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. He know that he is black, so he has to follow the customs followed by the tribes. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. That is an illusion. Then he realized, slowly he realized now, when I discovered as a young man, now when he was a young man, that my freedom had already been taken from me. Now that is taken from him. The freedom was taken from Nelson Mandela. Illusion is something that appears to be real, but it is not. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. Now I began to hunger for freedom. I began, means the freedom has taken from me and I began to hunger for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. First, when he was student, he just want freedom for himself. The transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, the freedom to stay out at night, read what I pleased and go where I chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential. Now, yearn means feeling of longing something. So now he pleased and go where I chose. Later, what he want, yearn for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential. basic freedoms to earn, basic freedoms of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family. That freedom he want. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Do that one, you are not able to do that, you are restricted to do that, will do anything to earn. So that freedom he want now. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. So the community people are also not free. And just it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. Means like peoples, means the black peoples, all their freedom was curtailed. Not only my freedom was curtailed. That is when I joined African National Congress, and that is when the hunger of my own freedom became a greater hunger for the freedom of my people. Now this hunger of freedom became the freedom, a hunger for freedom of my people. Now it is became in my heart that I want that freedom for my people. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect. Now he wants that freedom for their peoples who can live with dignity and self-respect. Dignity and self-respect that animated my life, means who are always following laws. Okay, so law abiding attorneys are who are always following. That transformed a frightened young man into a bold one. Now Nelson Mandela, a frightened young man, now became the bold one that drove a law abiding attorney who are always following the laws to become a criminal. Now that transformed the frightened one to bold one, that to become a like a criminal, that turn a family loving husband into a man without a home. Now he turned like a criminal, means who is a family loving husband. Now he became a man without a home, because they punished and isolated the person who is not following the rules. Now, that forced a life loving man to live like a monk. Now he is like a monk. I am no more virtuous or self sacrificing than the next man. But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. When he knew that, his peoples are not free, so but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor limited freedom. But he is not able to enjoy that freedom also, because he know that his peoples are not free. Freedom is indivisible. The chain on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. That is the chains on not only one or two people, that is the chains, my people were the chains on all of them. They have to follow certain rules and regulations in the society. I knew, so chains on all of them, the chains on all of my people were the chains on me. That's why he is not actually enjoying freedom, limited freedom also, because the chain on all of his people were the chains on Nelson Mandela. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. This is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindedness. That's why Nelson Mandela was in the prison, because he has just taken a man who takes away another man's freedom as a prison of hatred. When he speaks of his man, so he is locked behind the bars for of prejudice. Prejudice is the strong dislike without any good reason, that is prejudice. And oppressed is systematically harmed by others. Oppressed, oppressor must be liberated just surely as the oppressed. So here I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. He is not truly free. Nelson Mandela is not truly free if he was taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. Oppressed and oppressor is the systematically harmed by others. They are the oppressed. They are robbed of their humanity. They are robbed of their humanity, is gone somewhere else. So I can't be, I'm not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. So here the oppressed and the oppressor alike, both are alike because they are not having freedom of their humanity. I hope you guys understand the lesson.